You are not an SEO expert. I am not an SEO expert. But as it turned out, I actually happen to know somebody who is. Are you familiar with Google Gemini? This is their AI product. And so this morning I had a little bit of time and I took several of Google's documents, meaning I took their official list of ranking systems document, their guide to core updates on SEO ranking system, the search status dashboard. All of these articles are available for the public. And instead of taking the time to read them myself, I uploaded them into Google Gemini and I asked it, what are the misconceptions around SEO rankings, specifically in the real estate industry? Because everyone wants to rank highly on SEO, as they should, right? There's a tremendous value to be gained by a high ranking SEO site, but the way Google ranks SEO changes, which is why it's so important to have these latest articles that Google actually released. These dates that they released were in March, June, and December of 2025, right? So this is the latest and greatest from Google directly in terms of how you can positively impact your SEO rankings, but also how you can negatively impact your SEO rankings. There are things people are doing today that think are helping them, and it's actually doing more harm than it is good. And so today, I just want to break down what specifically for real estate agents Google told me you should do if you want to rank highly in SEO. So, first thing you need to do is break down the IDX saturation. This is something they call the 15% alpha, is what Gemini told me. So currently, Google actually deduplicates and filters out websites that offer 0% new data compared to the MLS feed, right? So what was happening in the past is agents were getting an SEO boost from IDX feeds. They were spinning up new websites, adding IDX feeds, and suddenly, boom, SEO value. And Google considered that to be cheap, right? So they actually changed their algorithm, and now if all you're doing is plugging in an IDX feed, Google is going to ignore that information because it's the same data coming from thousands of other websites. So you have to inject what they call proprietary alpha. And this is really proof of humanity. This is proof that you are a human being actually creating this website. And some of the things that you can do that to get attention is add shadow inventory, right? That's probably not a phrase that is looked upon kindly in the real estate space, but Gemini told me specifically shadow inventory helps your SEO ranking. So creating pages or coming soon or off-market insights. Even if you can't provide the actual property address itself, describe the trend in your hyper-local market. So another example was, why three homeowners on West 4th Street are prepping for a spring exit. It's this type of human-created content that Google notices versus just a syndicated IDX feed. So the next thing they recommended was the hyperlocal cost index. Don't just list house prices, but build a real-world utility table. So what does that even mean? I read that and I thought, I don't know what that is. An example is the average wait time at a local school, Montessori school versus the public charter, right? So this would be really valuable for someone like me. I have a 17-month-old son, knowing how long it's going to take on average to get my kid into a daycare or Montessori school or something like that could be really, really valuable. Another example is the actual commute time from a neighborhood to someone's office, right? Or like in a general area, like a financial district, or, in Atlanta, where I'm from, people would live in Alpharetta, but they would commute to Midtown to work. So what is that commute time from Midtown to Alpharetta, truly? And replace your generic descriptions with something really specific. So you truly do need to be really specific in these, like ranking the top 5 streets by tree canopy density. This was another example. Like, these are so unique. These examples are so real that a computer could not create them up. Tree canopy density. Again, that hit hard with me being from Atlanta as well, because the nickname for Atlanta is the city hidden in the trees, city hidden in the forest. So if you can do something like that, it's something that can't be generated by an MLS filter. Do you see what I'm saying here? You could have access to all the MLS filters in the world, which you do through Rooster, and you still couldn't create a page like tree canopy density or driveway privacy, right? You see, these are really, really specific and proof that a human made these. Next phase it mentioned was insidious proof, geospatial signal recovery. And I read this, and again, my eyes kind of rolled back in my head. I don't know what this means. So, what it's talking about is proving that your business exists in the place in the physical world that you say it does. So, for example, now that I live in Santa Rosa Beach, if I was creating a real estate team in Atlanta and building my website around Atlanta, but I am located in the next state over, Google's going to figure that out. So you have to use real life photos that you took, raw smartphone street level photos of local landmarks in community areas. And there actually is a way to do this. When you are taking photos, you want to make sure the GPS coordinates are embedded in the file, and you do this by actually making sure your location services are on your phone, right? So some people turn those off. I think they might be on by default, but it's worth checking out, making sure location services are on. And apparently it creates some type of geospatial anchor. Again, these are all Gemini words, but that's actually why I trust them. So by combining these, you do something called entity meshing. In your neighborhood guides, it's not just linked to your own listings, but link to the pages you've created specifically for this neighborhood, like the oldest church in the area, or a small mom and pop business that is in the area. Imagine other businesses that are hyper local that are doing the exact same thing, trying to prove that they're in the area they say they're in. Like creating your site to be in that same space as them, and actually being in that same space as them kind of builds this mesh, you see, where you overlap, and it creates more trust with Google, SEO, so on. Now another thing I thought this next phase I thought was particularly funny, because you can see how obvious it is that Google is trying to prove to itself that you are a human who created this website, and you're not just a programmatic bot recreating, spinning up site after site after site. This next phase is called breaking structural symmetry. Basically, another way they put it was organic messiness. Um, Bot created SEO sites look too perfect, right? Um, they so Google wants something more human. If every neighborhood page is exactly the same amount of words with the same style, like the same headings, heading, heading to titles, things like this, it actually makes Google scratch their head a little bit and say that is not a trustworthy site that was built by a bot. So it's this messiness of different length pages that are styled differently that actually benefits your SEO ranking. So for example, you'll make one page a deep dive 3,000 word master guide to an area. And then the next page you'll make, instead of 3,000 words, it's just a 400 word update on the area, right? So this is just a glimpse in time versus like the master guide of everything you need to know about the area. And what you do to link these together is don't use the related listings widget, right? Use in-text contextual links. So if you're on and again, guys, go and talk to Gemini about this. It's really incredible. But instead of just being on a listing page and having it link to the next listing, right? You actually might want it to link to something that's relevant to that property. If you're looking at luxury properties, have it linked to a blog that's about the architect who built it, right? It's what they describe as a nonlinear path that signals a human being created this. Here's, downtown condos and a link to all of the walkable places from these downtown condos. Also, I thought this was interesting. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, but Google does penalize, forced registration. So if you actually have someone forced to register within like 30 seconds of being on the website, it will negatively impact your SEO score as well. So if you were to move away from forced registration and move towards like offering free downloads, like that's something you see a lot of folks in the industry do. Here's a free download, click on this. Having people opt into downloading that for free is viewed more highly than forcing them to register to continue seeing properties. So of course that conflicts with pay-per-click advertising, but it is noteworthy. So I wouldn't want to leave something like that out. The last piece, or to summarize it really, is the Google Gemini described this as the entity proof checklist. All right, so here's a checklist for what you need to do. If you add something like seller sentiment section to every listing, or if you add something unique about the listing that isn't being syndicated by the MLS, you're going to get value from that. The metric to watch is time on page. Next thing you need to do is upload 10 insidious photos with the geographic metadata. So go to the places where you sell, take photos, add them to your website. To me, this seems really, really obvious, honestly. And then replace really generic terms with something that's just more unique and proves that you are the human being who you say you are, building these pages. So guys, this was really interesting for me. This really helped me learn a lot. Again, if you want to have this type of conversation, go to Google Gemini, give it the articles, or ask for the articles coming from Google regarding how to actually rank well with SEO. Take those articles, right? Have Gemini review them, and then ask them all the questions that you have, right? So I made a much easier to understand guide. Excuse me. With that, I posted it in the first comment. There's a link to it. It gives you a literal step-by-step strategy of what to do, and it was much easier to understand. It's much easier to understand than what I just read for an hour this morning. So please go check that out. What you think you know about SEO is not true. It might actually be doing more harm than good. It was a huge eye-opening experience for me. And this is such a novel opportunity really to go to Google directly and ask them, what do I need to do to rank well in SEO? You haven't really had that in the past. Before Gemini existed, there wasn't really a direct link into Google's brain the way there is now. So go take advantage of that. If SEO is important to you, you'd be a fool not to. So anyways, check that link out in the comments. And if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Go have an awesome day. Cheers.